She became a mother despite her doctor's warning. A mother's resolve. Everyone called her brave, but Maya never thought of herself that way. To her, bravery wasn't a choice, it was survival. It was waking up every morning knowing her body could betray her at any moment, yet still choosing to dream. Maya had always been small, delicate, as her grandmother often said, like porcelain. At 28, she had learned to live with the dull ache in her chest, the sudden breathlessness, the fatigue that hit like a wave and pulled her under. The diagnosis had come when she was just 16: pulmonary arterial hypertension, a rare but serious heart and lung condition. It was manageable, but the prognosis was clear. Pregnancy could kill her. Your heart wouldn't withstand it, her doctor had said gently, not unkindly, but with the finality of a closed door. You should consider other ways of building a family, adoption, surrogacy, but pregnancy is not an option. She had nodded then, her lips pressed tightly together, the weight of her dream slipping through her fingers like sand, but the conversation never left her. Years later, after marrying Kalechi, who knew everything and loved her still, Maya brought it up again. They had tried to quiet the yearning, busying themselves with travel, with work, with each other, but the pull was too strong. Her desire to carry life, to feel the fluttering heartbeat inside her own, wasn't a whim. It was something bone deep. I know what the doctor said, she told Kalechi one night, her voice trembling, but I need to try. I need to try. The months that followed were marked by a chaos of consultations. Some doctors were stern, others sympathetic. A few offered faint slivers of hope if she stabilized her condition, if she stayed on strict medication, if she monitored her heart religiously. There were endless tests, sleepless nights, moments where even she doubted her strength. And then, against all odds, two faint pink lines appeared. The joy was electric, but so was the fear. Pregnancy became a dance on the edge of a blade. Every week brought a new crisis: skyrocketing blood pressure, a hospital admission, heart monitors that beeped like ticking clocks. Maya held her belly through it all, whispered prayers into the silence, and refused to give in. There were nights she cried into Kalechi's chest, torn between love for the child growing inside her and fear that she might not survive to meet them. There were moments of peace, too, when the baby kicked or when the doctor's face softened with cautious optimism. It was a tightrope walk across a storm, but she never stopped walking. Her fight for motherhood. Maya's diagnosis wasn't just a condition. It was a life sentence, with rules, routines, and a long list of don'ts. Pulmonary arterial hypertension, or PAH, meant her heart had to work twice as hard to pump blood through the arteries of her lungs. Any added strain, even something as natural as pregnancy, could tip her into heart failure. Her body, the doctors said, was no place for a child to grow. But Maya disagreed. She remembered the exact moment her desire crystallized into determination. It was at her niece's birthday party. Amid balloons and laughter, Maya had watched her sister cradle her newborn son, rocking him with a grace Maya could only dream of. That night, as the oxygen concentrator hummed softly beside her bed, she whispered to herself, "I will not let this body decide the size of my love." Her cardiologist, Dr. Ayodele, had seen cases like hers before. "Maya," he had said gently during one consultation, eyes weary but kind, "this isn't about denying your dream. It's about keeping you alive. Pregnancy increases blood volume by nearly 50%. That kind of load could collapse your heart. I've seen it happen." "But has it always happened?" Maya asked, her voice shaking but steady. He paused. "No, not always, but often enough." That sliver of hope was enough. What followed was a regimented preparation plan that tested every part of her, physically, emotionally, spiritually. Maya met with specialists, maternal fetal medicine experts, pulmonologists, cardiologists. They built a custom roadmap where every step was monitored and recalibrated. She underwent months of intravenous prostacyclin therapy to reduce the pressure in her arteries, administered through a central line threaded into her chest. The side effects were brutal: jaw pain, nausea, flushing that left her weak for hours. But she didn't falter. She changed her diet, started physiotherapy, and carried a portable oxygen tank that became as familiar as her handbag. Her fertility treatments were another battlefield. With natural conception deemed too risky to leave to chance, she began a carefully controlled cycle of IVF. Hormonal injections bloated her body and fogged her mind, but Maya clung to each step like a lifeline. Every ultrasound, every scan, every lab result felt like a report card on her willpower. Even her moments of doubt were tempered by fierce resolve. When a nurse once asked her if it was worth it, all the injections, the hospital visits, the medical bills, Maya simply smiled and said, "You've never heard a mother's heart speak through a broken body." There were setbacks. One embryo didn't implant. A minor infection landed her in the ICU. A medication adjustment triggered arrhythmia. But she pushed forward, armed with research, prayer, and Kalechi's unshakable support. She wasn't defying her doctors out of recklessness. She was walking a path they didn't believe possible but couldn't fully rule out. And in that narrow in between, Maya found her fight, the turning point. It wasn't a grand moment, not the kind that comes with trumpets or fanfare. It happened on an ordinary Tuesday morning, with sunlight pouring through the blinds and the smell of papaya and mint tea lingering in the air. Maya had just returned from yet another appointment. Another doctor, another warning, another list of what could go wrong. She sat at the kitchen table, absently stirring her tea, while Kalechi read through a medical report with furrowed brows. His silence was heavy, worried, and suddenly Maya knew this would never get easier unless she made peace with the risk. She placed her hand gently on her belly, still flat and uncertain, and said, "I'm tired of being afraid of my own body. I believe it was meant to do more than survive. I believe it was meant to give life." That was the moment she chose to challenge the odds, not out of defiance, but out of deep, unshakable faith in herself. Her decision wasn't reckless. It was grounded in years of study, in consultations, in conversations with other women with PAH who had taken the same dangerous journey. She knew the data, the odds, the risks, but more importantly, she knew her own body, its rhythms, its limits, its quiet strengths. Hope isn't weakness, she told her therapist during a counseling session. It's the only thing that's kept me going. Her belief didn't exist in isolation. It was nurtured by a powerful support system that encircled her like a net beneath a high wire. Kalechi, ever steady, became her anchor, reading medical journals late into the night, managing medication schedules, holding her hand through panic attacks and platelet counts. Her best friend, Ifeoma, transformed into her self-appointed cheerleader, sending daily affirmations and showing up with hot meals when Maya was too exhausted to cook. Her mother, once skeptical, came around slowly, showing her love in quiet ways, pressing anointed oil into Maya's palms, knitting tiny socks without asking questions. Even Dr. Iodale, who had once been her strongest voice of caution, began to soften. "You've done your homework," he said during one checkup, his voice heavy with reluctant admiration. "If anyone has a chance, it's you." That turning point wasn't about throwing fear to the wind. It was about choosing faith over fear, preparation over panic, and possibility over limitation. Maya decided to walk through the fire because she knew, deep in her soul, that on the other side was a life she was meant to hold in her arms. Becoming a mother. The final stretch of Maya's pregnancy was a blur of hospital corridors, monitors beeping in constant rhythm, and whispered prayers. Each week felt like a small victory, each ultrasound like a miracle signed in grayscale. The doctors called it a managed risk. Maya called it grace. By her third trimester, her body was running on fumes. Her heart function dropped dangerously low, her legs swelled. Breathing became a task she had to plan for, like a mountain climber rationing air at high altitude. She was admitted to the hospital at 30 weeks for round-the-clock monitoring. The fear was ever present, but so was the life growing inside her, stubborn and strong, just like her mother. She made sacrifices no one could see. She gave up control, surrendered to machines and medications that kept her tethered to stability. She endured emergency magnesium drips that burned through her veins and steroids to speed up the baby's lung development. Every day was a negotiation between her health and her unborn child's survival. Every hour brought her closer to a line she couldn't afford to cross. Then, at 33 weeks, the doctors decided it was time. A C-section was scheduled. The delivery room felt more like an operating theater. Oxygen tanks, cardiologists on standby, a neonatal team prepped for a preterm baby. Kalechi stood by her side, masked and trembling, his hand wrapped tightly in hers. "I'm ready," she whispered, though her heart thundered with fear. And then at 3:47 a.m., amid the sterile light and silent tension, a cry pierced the air, sharp, small, but defiant. a baby girl, breathing, alive. Maya sobbed before she could see her daughter, the weight of months of pain, fear, and hope collapsing into that single sacred sound. She named her Zuri, which means beautiful in Swahili. Beautiful because she was. Beautiful because her very existence was a rebellion against impossibility. The days that followed were hard. Zuri stayed in the NICU, tiny and fragile, while Maya recovered from surgery and stabilized her heart. There were complications. Maya needed oxygen support. She couldn't walk without help. Feeding Zuri required tubes and nurses. Yet through it all, Maya clung to her daughter's incubator and whispered, "We did it. You and me." Parenting was nothing like Maya imagined. It was harder. The fatigue was bone deep, and some days her heart pounded so violently she feared she might pass out just from rocking her baby to sleep. But it was also sweeter. Every gurgle, every yawn, every grasp of Zuri's miniature fingers was a reminder that she had crossed the impossible line and lived. She learned to parent with creativity and caution. Short walks around the living room instead of parks, bottle feeds propped on pillows, medical alarms mingling with lullabies. It wasn't easy, but it was hers. And Maya, the woman they said would never become a mother, now wore the title like a crown. A message of hope. Maya's story isn't a prescription, it's a testimony. Not everyone with her condition would make the same choice, and not everyone should. Medical advice exists for a reason, born from evidence, experience, and the desire to preserve life. But what doctors cannot measure, what no scan, no chart, no prognosis can fully capture, is the force of a determined spirit. Maya didn't ignore her doctors. She listened, questioned, researched. She didn't leap blindly into motherhood. She prepared, sacrificed, and fought. Her journey was not about proving anyone wrong. It was about honoring the quiet truth inside her that said, "This dream is mine." Because sometimes the path forward is hidden in the margins of possibility, between statistics and stories, between fear and faith. She now looks at her daughter, healthy, radiant, full of life, and remembers the nights she lay awake, uncertain if she would live to hear her baby cry. She remembers the nurses who held her hand, the specialists who helped her plan the impossible, the family who never let her walk alone. And she remembers how close she came to giving up. To anyone standing at the edge of a dream, be it motherhood, recovery, love, or purpose, Maya offers this. Your body may carry scars, your heart may bear doubts, and the world may call you reckless. But if there is a fire in you, steady and true, let it lead you. You are stronger than your diagnosis. You are more than your fear. And your dream, no matter how fragile, deserves a chance to live. Believe in yourself. Ask the hard questions. Make the informed choices. But never silence the voice within that dares to hope. Because sometimes the heart knows what even science cannot predict, that miracles of their courage begins.